you were mentioning that you have a fun little story when you used to work in Beijing with MSG. Can you share about that?
I was at a restaurant with a colleague of mine, and I had asked her, like, if there's MSG in my soup, but what I actually ended up saying was, like, is period blood in my soup? And she, like, practically spit out her noodles and was like, oh god, I hope not say the wrong word.
Man.
I kind of, like, knew, like, right when I said it that I had probably said the wrong word.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show today. My name is John Drummond, or Yang Haoen.
Hello, 大家好，欢迎各位再度来到 NG 英文，我是 Angela.
We have a great episode for you today with my good friend Caren, who is known around the Taiwanese community as Caren Chen.
是的，今天我们来宾 Caren 除了每个星期一晚上是担任 Formosa News 的这个英文新闻主播以外，也是 Sensay 英文线上学习平台的创办人哦。
My guest today is Taiwanese American. She is the co-founder of edtech company OKSensay. She is a weekly news anchor for Formosa TV. She is incredibly kind, curious, motivated, and so much more. So everyone, please welcome Caren.
Hi everyone, this is Caren.
You just told me off air, you are the Monday news anchor for, right. Is it Formosa TV?
Formosa News, yeah.
Formosa News.
On channel 152.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. So I don't want to go too much into that, but yeah, how is that being like a weekly English news anchor?
You know, it's pretty neat. I actually studied broadcast journalism in undergrad, believe it or not. So it's not like super outside of, you know, the realm for me, but it is pretty cool to be able to do that in Taipei and be kind of live on the air Monday nights at 9:30.
Awesome. Yeah, check it out. Channel 152. Yeah, awesome. But today I was hoping we could talk about a few things.
Okay. Your
company and your kind of inspiration to get more involved, really jumping off the deep end into kind of the education space here in Taiwan. Yeah. So can you give our audience a little introduction here on NG England?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Caren, and I'm from Los Angeles originally, and I moved here about 4 years ago, actually to work for a multinational company in Taipei. And I did that for about a year before I pivoted to sort of the education space where I currently now have my own platform that I started with a couple of partners called Sensay. And our website is OKSensay.com, and we're basically an edtech platform that is speaking based. So we help people to practice speaking English outside of the classroom using our AI-powered platform.
So cool. Yeah, and I love that. So 4 years ago, you moved over to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And since then, you have become an entrepreneur.
I know. It's kind of crazy to look back and think about all the things that have happened. I know like 4 years is not a short amount of time, but it also just goes by in like a blink of an eye too.
Yeah, I could totally agree. As we were just mentioning, I just got my APRC and I can't believe I was like, wait, have I been here for over 5 years now?
It's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations. It's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you. So much to talk about in terms of your company and your life. But I was thinking, can you share a little bit more about your journey with starting Sensay? Maybe what was the inspiration to get involved with the edtech space?
Oh, absolutely. For me, I think it's really rooted in like problem solving. Like I love to solve problems. Like I can't help myself. Like I really can't help myself.
Me neither.
When things like don't seem to quite make sense, I'm just kind of like, I need to dive in here and kind of understand what's going on, why it is the way it is, and if there's anything I can do about it. So the reason I started Sensay was really from my corporate experience working in Taipei for the multinational company. I basically saw a lot of my, super educated, experienced, really talented coworkers in Taiwan struggle a lot with English whenever they had to give, a work presentation or when we had meetings with folks who couldn't speak Chinese, even kind of like the simple day-to-day interactions with folks in our office who couldn't speak Mandarin. It kind of stressed my coworkers out, and they would like avoid communication actually because they were just like, I'm really not comfortable speaking English. And everybody had this sort of self-limiting belief that their English was really poor, when in fact it wasn't really. So I just kind of was quite puzzled because in Taiwan, I don't know, I'm sure you know actually, John, that the government mandates English education starting from, I believe, grade 1. Mm-hmm. So all of my talented, smart colleagues have learned English for over 10 years. And yet in the, professional world, when it pretty much matters, if you get promoted or, your livelihood kind of depends on this kind of stuff. If you work at a multinational company and have to speak English at work at times, it just wasn't really there. Like the speaking proficiency wasn't there. And so that's what kind of ignited this like curiosity and passion to just like figure out how to make the situation better, because it really was in front of my face. Like I could see the impact that fear of speaking English was impacting their lives. Like they couldn't get, roles in like Singapore or like in the UK, for example, because it was a British company. It was limiting folks in terms of like their career opportunities. So I sought out to kind of diagnose the problem, understand how English is being taught in Taiwan, and if there's any way to kind of optimize and make things better.
Yeah, I just love that problem-solving mentality that you have. And that is something that we see in companies all the time. It's just that their English actually is probably okay, but that kind of that fear of not being perfect, quote unquote,
100%.
is so limiting. And
100%.
Yeah, well said. And so you and your partners then came together and essentially made this as like a speaking output app. And so could you take us maybe a little bit on the journey of creating that? I mean, when did you launch? Like, what's the origin story?
The origin story. All right, John. Well, given that I have no technical background, the journey really started to find a technical co-founder, like to find a technical partner who could build the minimum viable product, the MVP, for this crazy idea that I had.
Business 101 class right now.
Yeah, like if you have an idea and you're not technical, your next step is pretty much to find out a way to really scrappily build an MVP. And it doesn't even have to be technical. So to be honest, like I kind of got really, it took a year to find my partner, but he's a very senior engineer and he was able to very quickly build an MVP. But to be honest, and this is what I advise like other friends or who are interested in starting businesses that are tech-based, you probably in many cases don't need an actual coded MVP. It can be like for Sensei, for example, we did just like mock-ups of like in Figma or, there's like tools where you can like kind of wireframe out something really, really simple. And we just like showed it to students and they could kind of like react to how they liked the exercise, the image, we could kind of fake it. So that was an easy way to get student feedback on what we were thinking about for our concept that was really low cost. Like I could just download Figma for free and like mock up these images to just share with students and parents and teachers and kind of get their feedback. So I would encourage folks out there who have a really interesting idea to think outside of the box. Maybe you don't need a technical founder just yet. You can try to concept it yourself, even through like drawings. Like you could also just draw things yourself as well.
Awesome. So cool. Yeah. So check it out. OKSensay.com.
SENSAY. So it's a little bit, it's like play on the word, like the Japanese word sensei for sensei, teacher, but like SAY because we're speaking based platform.
That's a pun right there for anyone listening. Yeah. Nicely done. Yeah. Okay, Sensei. Awesome, Caren. Well, I just think it's so fascinating. And, I know all the ups and downs that come with creating a company and dealing with so much of that. So I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. So Caren, I think it's so cool. Obviously you're a female in tech and you're a founder. And I know how difficult that world can be to navigate as any gender or race, but can you share kind of your perspective? What are some really powerful things that you've had to overcome that you can maybe share with our audience?
Yeah, such a great question, John. I think that, for anyone, it doesn't really matter the gender, race, like to your point. Self-doubt is often a thing that I think it does especially plague women for some reason, like how we're like socialized or whatnot growing up. Experiencing self-doubt and having to kind of like pick yourself up and make sure that you are still focused on your vision for your company. So for example, at Sensei, a lot of folks ask us, why not just make it a consumer app? Like go directly to the students, less barriers, like whether it's like parents or working professionals, it's an easier target audience to kind of capture because they're the decision maker and they have probably a higher willingness to pay when it's their own learning journey. And we have very intently from the beginning positioned Sensei to be a tool actually for educators to use, for the teachers to use, and for schools to use. And staying true to that mission and not having the, self-doubt to creep in and to pivot and change when you hear feedback from whether it's like mentors or investors or whoever, I have to really stand my ground and remember why it is positioned for educators. And even though we might not be seeing as high of a growth rate or, skyrocketing revenue numbers or whatever, remembering the original mission and that we're trying to fix the way that education is done pedagogically in Taiwan and abroad, that is the mission. Like we are here to help teachers. So having the kind of wherewithal to always like stick true to your mission and original vision, even though along the way, you're getting a lot of pushback perhaps, I think that's really important for founders, female founders especially, but any founder, right? Like remember what your original vision is and why you can stick to it. That's not to say you might not want to pivot if there is enough data to kind of make that a choice that makes sense. But for us at Sensei, like that specific positioning for our product has been something that I stand by 110% and will continue to.
Yeah. Well said. And knowing that's the problem you're trying to solve, and that's the creation of the company. And knowing when it's time to pivot, if it pivots, yeah, fine. But I love that advice. Yeah. Well said.
Thank you.
访谈上半段在一开始这边我们就有一个片语要来跟各位分享 outside the realm。 好，这个 realm R-E-A-L-M 它在这边指的是领域范围。好，所以刚才 Caren 提到他每个星期晚上播英文新闻的这个工作呢 It's not super outside of the realm， 就是在表达这种新闻媒体的工作性质对他来说其实也不算是太超出他的专业领域。好，为什么嘞？因为其实他在大学的时候就是学传播的，所以也还算是在他了解熟悉的范围这样子。好，那不过有时候 realm 它也可以有王国的意思哦。像之前很红的那部影集《冰与火之歌》有没有 Game of Thrones 里面龙妈那一长串的头衔里面就有提到他是 Protector of the Realm， 好，就是说他是王国的守护者，好，或是像戏里翻译的全境守护者。再来，我们这位来自加州的 Caren 4年前搬到台湾，本来是在一间跨国企业工作，那现在自己出来跟伙伴一起成立了一个叫做 Sensei 的线上语言学习工具，透过人工智慧系统呢，来帮助学生增加英文口说的练习机会。那当初会想要来成立一个这样子的语言学习系统，其实是因为之前还在前公司工作的时候啊，遇到很多高学历背景的优秀同事，常常就是因为英文的口说能力不是那么好，而错失掉很多外派啊或是升迁的机会。但其实不是他们真的不会讲英文啊，或者是英文能力不好什么的，只是因为他们已经先入为主的给自己的内心设限，觉得自己就是不会讲而已。所以我们这位热爱解决问题的 Caren 想来想去呢，就决定要来好好研究整个我们台湾英文教育的问题点，好来帮助大家改善英文的口说能力。但因为 Caren 她本身没有跟科技工程有关的经验背景，所以就找来了一位资深工程师，也就是他的共同创办人，来帮忙建立一个最低可行产品，来测试 Caren 她这个创业想法的可行度。结果虽然人家很资深，也很快就把一个 MVP 做出来，但他后来发现其实也不太需要真的去做一个 MVP， 可以直接就以 markup 的方式，一个图稿模型，甚至直接手画，好简单去传达设计理念跟学习方法来给学生体验使用。 那这边有个字，大家如果平常跟工程师的工作比较没有相关性的话，可能就比较不会遇到。不过我们还是来听一下，不学白不学嘛，对不对？ MVP 它就是 Minimum Viable Product， 好，就是刚才我们讲的最低可行产品或是最简可行产品。接下来 Caren 分享到的是他这一路走来在成立公司过程中遇到的一些难题。像他在创办 Sensay 的时候啊，很多人就会质疑他软体的设计方向，觉得为什么不直接就做一个以消费者为导向的 App 就好，让学生可以直接去使用去操作，而不用还要透过老师透过学校去给学生用。当然我们有收到回馈，有建议是很好，没错，说不定这样子公司也会比较赚钱。但是如果改成那样子的话呢，就会跟 Caren 一开始成立的初衷背道而驰。所以在这种被怀疑的时候，站稳自己的脚步，不被影响很重要。尤其又是因为我们女性创办人，不要因为有人提出质疑就开始怀疑自己。好像 Caren 说的，当初会有做Sensay的想法，目的就是要改善英语教学方式，是要来帮助老师，设计给老师的。好，那这边有个片语大家来听一下， Stand your ground， 意思是站稳脚步，坚持立场。像这边刚才 Caren 说他坚持当时的初衷，没有因为其他人的质疑而动摇，就是说 she stood her ground。 其他类似的片语还有像是 stand tall， 好，它可以用来表达自信的去做某件事情，或是像stand on your own feet， 就是说独立自力更生的意思。好啦，那这段内容就先在这边告一段落，我们赶快继续听下班的分享。
And so transitioning a little bit to kind of the story of you, the story of Caren. So
you
yeah,
make it sound so mystical.
I know.
Or magical.
Well, it really is. It is magical. You know, growing up in LA, outside of LA, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you take us through, you know, what was your life like with language?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents immigrated from Taiwan in like the 80s, the early 80s. So my sister was born in Taiwan, but I was born in the States. And, you know, like most immigrant families, my parents didn't speak English with us at home. They spoke, you know, Mandarin with us at home. So I grew up really, I guess, immersed in both languages, like English, of course, you know, because we were in California, and then having exposure to Mandarin at home. And I, you know, like all good Chinese kids, you know, we had to go to Chinese after school to like learn Chinese, you know, growing up. So I learned like bopamafa from a Taiwanese teacher. You know, I learned just the language from, probably up until like middle school. I was still going to these like after school programs to learn Chinese. I remember those books like Wang Da Zhong, you know, like those old school Chinese books. I don't even know if they're still around anymore. But, you know, that's kind of how I kept up with the reading and writing aspect of Chinese, and then speaking and listening at home to an extent. And I also did study abroad in Beijing my last semester in undergrad. So I did Beida. I did the Chinese program there. So I learned a little bit of simplified, and that's where I learned Pinyin. So it's been really cool to kind of have access to like both the bopamafa and the Pinyin for Chinese. And I mean, I haven't been keeping up with it since then. So the memorization of the characters and everything has really fallen by the wayside, because Chinese is just such a difficult language to kind of like retain and hold on to if you're not constantly kind of around characters and reading and writing. And especially with texting now, you know, like writing is, you know, just basically just do it with your phone. So unfortunately. And then speaking, because it's an immersive environment. I live in Taipei for the past 4 years. Speaking has definitely picked up a lot for me, and it's been probably the best it's ever been in my whole life, because I'm here and having to use it daily. So yeah, that's sort of, in a nutshell, my experience with learning Chinese, and then native speaking English. So I never really had to learn it outside of, you know, the normal curriculum in the States.
Yeah, very cool. And it's so fun with my friends who kind of grew up in those bilingual households, just to see, you know, what was the day-to-day. And I just love hearing about I know you didn't probably love it at the time, but going to like Saturday Chinese school and you're just like,
It was also Monday through Friday Chinese
my God,
school.
you had, it was like proper like Bushiban style.
Yeah, basically the
Oh my
reverse
goodness.
style of Bushiban.
Oh my
Because very
goodness.
similar, like, your parents are working, so you don't get picked up till like 5 or 6 p.m. So they we do Chinese class like
There
in the
you
afternoons after school.
No doubt. And it makes me think too, as you grew up bilingual, you've now moved here, you're more immersed in Mandarin all the time here, and you are a founder of a language startup. And so, thinking about, we talked a little bit off air, the internet, right? We both work for ed tech companies. We're both online, and information is mostly in English or in Mandarin. And so, can you share your perspective on that with our audience?
Yeah, 100%. So when I moved to Taiwan, obviously I noticed pretty quickly that most things in Taiwan are in traditional Chinese, including, just like signs and, what's on the street, what's like menus at restaurants, and the internet, of course, like the media consumption here is quite local. Folks are kind of really just consuming media in traditional Chinese. And it was a big departure from what I was used to with, mostly consuming media that was in English. And, some observations, just like you were saying, John, like most of the internet is in English or Chinese, probably even less so traditional Chinese. I would say most of the internet, the Chinese we're talking about in terms of what's on the internet is in simplified Chinese. So if you think about the amount of information on the internet that is available in traditional Chinese, it's a very small slice in terms of the whole entire pie, which is mostly made up of English content. So that's why I really, really would encourage folks in Taiwan who want to have a more international outlook on things to try to get more comfortable with reading or listening to things in English, because there's so much information that folks are missing out on if they really just want to consume it in traditional Chinese, or if it's listening just Mandarin, because most things are not being translated, into Mandarin. So there's just so much more content in English that I think folks will have access to a more international perspective that way.
Yeah, I love that. Well said. With that international perspective of consuming online, which most of the population now will start doing. I think as we step into our parents' generation now, we are the majority. The millennials are the majority, and it's like, everyone else now has the internet, and they're going to grow up with the internet. And so being able to consume that information in multiple languages is so vital.
And if you're a Taiwanese person listening to ICRT, you're already like light years ahead. So kudos, for trying to get out of your comfort zone and listening to, folks who can kind of communicate in English, because that's giving you hopefully a valuable perspective.
Yeah. Well said. So thinking a little bit about your work time in Beijing, you were mentioning you have kind of a fun little story with your Mandarin.
It's hilarious. I will never, I still chuckle when I think about it. So, my Chinese has deteriorated a lot, because I wasn't really living in Asia, right? I've spent most of my adult life in the States until I was like 31 or 32 years old. So my, my brain kind of like glitches. So this one time when I was in Beijing, we were like at a restaurant, and I was with a coworker, and I was trying to think of the word for MSG in Chinese, which is 味精, right? And I like brain glitched, and I was like, 这碗面有月经吗? Which 月经 is Chinese for menstrual period. And my coworker almost like spit out her food. I was in her mouth like, cracking up, and she was like, God, I hope not. And I was like, oh my God, did I say something wrong? So, getting those really embarrassing like mix up of like the vocabulary, I don't know if I will ever live that down with that coworker where she was just dying.
Oh my goodness. It's a beautiful reminder of kind of the humility of language. And so, anyone listening, always, there's always those stories from any language.
Yeah, you really have to have a sense of humor, right? Like when you're learning a language or getting comfortable speaking and trying out new languages, have a sense of humor. It's totally just, fun, and it's an experience. It's not like, you have to be like 100% perfect all the time. It's communication.
Communication, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Awesome, Caren. Well, unfortunately, we are coming to the end here on NG Ingwen. And a question I'd love to end with is if you could go back and talk to a younger Caren, would there be any advice you give yourself about business, language, or life?
Oh, that's such a good question, John. I think what I would say to like a younger Caren is to enjoy the journey a little bit more, and that there aren't as many right or wrong answers as you think there are.
Ooh, I love that depth. That's it. That's a beautiful one. Yeah.
Mic drop.
Bah, get out of here, she said. Yes. Well said. To sum that up, yeah, there aren't so many right or wrongs. It's just about
enjoying the journey. That's
yeah.
right.
Well said. Awesome. Well, Caren, where can people find your company online? Where can they find you on social media and maybe LinkedIn?
Yeah, everyone, please check us out. Sensay's website is just OKSensay.com, OKSensay.com. And you can look for me on a good channel would be LinkedIn, CarenChen. Or you can find us on Instagram as well at OKSensay is our Instagram handle.
All right, Caren. Well, good luck with everything with the rest of the year and into 2022. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, John.
节目下半段这边 Caren 跟大家聊到的部分是他小时候在加州的成长过程。因为家里是台湾移民，所以从小当然是中文英文同时在大脑轮流转换嘛，在家里讲中文，在学校讲英文，然后放学后呢也会去中文学校跟台湾老师上课。那后来大学的时候呢，又有到北京大学去上中文课，所以其实不管是汉语拼音还是注音符号 Caren 她都不陌生，只是因为后来就越来越少去练习，所以现在中文的读跟写方面也是不像以前那样比较没有那么练等了齁。不过幸好因为住在台北，如果只是讲中文听中文的话，那真的程度像他说的真的还是史无前例的好。那讲到这边的时候，他用到了一个片语 fall by the wayside， 字面上意思是倒在路边，但它可以用来形容一个人做事半途而废，没能完成某件事情，或者它也可以表达某个事物被搁置、放弃、抛诸脑后。像假设今天你跟几个朋友本来计划讨论很久，要花他个半年去环游世界，结果这个环游世界的发起人呢，突然要退出不参加了。那这个时候为了不让原本好好的计划 fall by the wayside， 不让计划泡汤，剩下的旅伴呢还是就继续按照原定时间出发完成计划。再来他们提到说现在网络资讯虽然中文的也很丰富，但整体而言呢，大部分的资料还是都是用英文呈现的。所以各位听众朋友，真的如果希望得到更多资讯的话，务必要去习惯听英文读英文，甚至是实际的去用它。这样子不但可以得到2种语言的资讯，还可以增加我们的国际视野，以更多元更国际化的角度去看事情。像听众朋友现在你听 ICRT 听英文广播，就已经是在帮助自己走向世界，在接受英文讯息。所以就像 Caren 说的， Kudos to you， 真的很棒。不过我们学语言有一点很重要，就是要多练习多应用，而且真的要有幽默感，然后要懂得把犯错讲错看很开，因为没有人学东西学语言不会犯错的对不对？像 Caren 有一次他就在餐厅吃饭，把味精讲成月经，乍听之下真的是很尴尬啦，但是现在也是变成笑话一则，听听就过了，对不对？而且因为这样子让他从此完全记得味精跟月经的分别。好，最后 Caren 说我们要懂得去好好享受生命，不要太去执着于找答案。好，人生里面没有那么多解答给你了，又不是参考书，解答就在后面。好，人生不是是非题，没有说什么事情一定是对一定是错，要记得活在当下，享受生命的过程。好啦，那希望大家都有从这一次的内容学到一些东西。有兴趣的话呢，找个时间去了解一下他们的这个 OKSensay 的语言学习工具吧。
All right, bye everyone.
Bye everyone.
Peace. All right, well that is our NG Ingwen show for today. We hope everyone enjoyed listening to that. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now Spotify. You can search NG Ingwen, or you can search on IG English ICRT. And don't forget to tune in every Wednesday morning from 6:30 to 7 and Wednesday night from 9 to 9:30.
好啦，今天的节目就到这边告一段落啦，感谢各位的收听，别忘了订阅我们的 Spotify 还有 YouTube 频道哦。那喜欢我们节目的话，也要记得到 Instagram 到 IG 上追踪我们哦。如果各位有什么其他问题是想要问来宾的，也请欢迎在底下留言告诉我们，我们一定会想办法帮你问到手。好啦，那就下周在空中相会咯，拜拜。